Baltimore, and both sides of Lions and Ravens. Lions will have some extra rest coming off a Thanksgiving loss up there at Ford Field. This guy, he's the busiest guy I know. He's at Michigan games on Saturdays, and wherever the Wolverines and Jim Harbaugh goes, he will go, and he will be with John Harbaugh on this Sunday. The Detroit Lions come to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. He's an icon in Michigan and the longtime voice of not only Michigan football, but also the radio analyst of the Detroit Lions. He is Brandy Man Can out on Twitter. Tens of thousands follow him. Jimmy Brandstatter joins us again from the great state of Michigan. Dude, you had a chance for a national championship and the Lions with Super Bowl aspirations and all that. What the heck happened here the last 3 months since we got together?
Yeah, I know. It's been tough, hasn't it? Lions can't seem to get over the hump. I mean, they needed to beat Minnesota to get over the hump to kind of get themselves in a position. Couldn't do it. Michigan needed to beat Ohio State and, came really close and just fell short. That's the way they've been the last couple of years. They have given Ohio State everything they've asked for, but can't get over the hump. And wish I had an answer. If I did, I'd be a rich man today, Nestor.
Well, I'll go back to the Wolverines and the damage they did to the Terps in a couple of minutes, but let's start on the Lions. I mean, when you talk about a devastating loss on Thanksgiving, and look, you've been with the Lions forever. They haven't won. There's a lot of devastating losses, but the key games really do happen in November and December if you're a Lions fan, because that's the thing that's going to get you to the next level. They didn't pass the test on Thursday, and I got to think that that's tremendously disappointing to everyone there, and especially in a year where Aaron Rodgers isn't right, and it feels like it's just sitting there, that brass ring, and you need to grab it.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's exactly the scenario that everybody in Detroit is thinking about. Additionally, the Lions beat Minnesota in Game 1 up in Minneapolis. So when they come to town on Thanksgiving Day, which is a red letter day for Detroit Lions football, you'd think you'd get something more. But hey, Case Keenum, say what you will, this guy is having an incredible year. He played very, very well, and the Lions didn't play well. And you're going to play a good football team, and Minnesota's a good football team with a very good defensive front. And if you don't block them, you're going to put your quarterback in danger. And when Matthew Stafford, as good as he is, when he's pressured and uncomfortable in the pocket, he's not going to be as good as he can be. And that's kind of what Minnesota did, and the Lions just didn't have an answer. And that's been the case for a lot of years. So right now, right now the onus is on them. They literally, I think, got to win out, get to 11 wins if they have any hope of maybe making the playoffs.
Well, it's a whole different bag over in that NFC than it is in the AFC. We're scuffling along at 6-5, feeling pretty good about ourselves at this point. But you're certainly on the Lions side, and I know it's been 4 years since we've gotten together, but it feels like a broken record. You can't run the ball, and the defense isn't good enough. Now, I will say this. The secondary of the Lions looks to be much improved at this point, but it also feels like the Lions miss our old pal Haloti Ngata right now, especially in stopping the run.
They miss him big time. You can't even believe that. The stats with him and without him are like there's 70, 80 yards difference in the running. Minnesota last Thursday, they had a drive of 4 plays, 75 yards, all on the ground. You can't do that in the NFL. I mean, you've got to be able to stop the run. And I know this is a passing league, but the reality of life is you got to be able to stop the run.
Well, and then you got to be able to run, conversely, and that's something that every team would love to come in and give their quarterback an afternoon off and let the offensive line be lunch pail guys. But helmet on helmet, offensive lines are really struggling throughout this league. You don't just see what the Lions are doing; you see who they're playing every week as well. Running the football and offensive linemen, and you're the greatest example in the world. You watch college football all day Saturday, you watch pro football all day Sunday. They're two different games right now in the way they're constructed offensively.
Oh, they are. There's no question. The one thing about the NFL is that you must protect your quarterback in the passing game. If you do not, you're going to have trouble winning. I don't care who the quarterback is. I mean, we've seen examples of pressure on quarterbacks in Super Bowls, great quarterbacks, like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. When they are hit, when they are punched around, when they are moved off their spot, when they're forced to move their feet, they're not as good. They're not as otherworldly as they normally are. And that's what it takes. And if you can't protect your quarterback, and Matthew Stafford, I'm going to tell you what, Nestor, Matthew Stafford is as good as anybody out there. This guy is an elite quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care about any wins, losses, whatever. When he's able to plant his feet and throw, that guy can beat anybody. But it's that if he can plant his feet and throw. And if he can't, then he's not going to be as good. And they need him to be great. The Lions aren't good enough everywhere else. to not have Matthew Stafford be great in a game and help win games because you can ride his back without him being great, then I think the Lions have troubles and they'll scuffle to win football games.
Having another enjoyable chat with Michigan icon Jim Brandstatter. You can follow him, and tens of thousands do, out on Twitter at BrandyManCan, longtime voice of the Wolverines as well as the Lions. Yes, Jim Brandstatter is a busy, busy guy. We're busy around here, too. Fremont Mortgage keeps us busy. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need Fremont Mortgage and Fremont.com. Of course, Carl Delmont joined us earlier this week. You can hear that up in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault, giving us a little mortgage advice as well as some Harrisburg Heat advice. Also brought to you by our friends at Deli Ish on Wise Avenue in Dundalk. The holidays are here. If you need to cater in for any parties, anything you need, you want to go to delibaltimore.com or go visit them over on Wise Avenue in Dundalk for one of those delicious lean corned beef sandwiches. Deli Ish on Wise Avenue in Dundalk and delibaltimore.com. Jim Brandstatter comes in this weekend with the Detroit Lions, who absolutely need to win to maintain pace. I don't know that the Ravens need to win this game this week, but it certainly is one of those ones you circle on the calendar the rest of the way and say we're going to see a starting quarterback on Sunday. And everyone this week has offered plaudits for Matt Stafford. But what has been the problem there? Is it the running back? Is it the offensive line? Is it the scheme? Because it feels to me if you could run just a little bit, it would open up lots of circumstances for Stafford to be even better than he's been, which is a 5,000-yard quarterback.
It's a combination of all those things. I think if you ask any coach in the National Football League or anything why you can't run the ball, I mean, Theo Riddick and Amir Abdullah are decent backs. Don't get me wrong; they're good backs. Problem is that the offensive line, they've just gotten together for the first time and played together once. Taylor Decker is just going to be in his third game when the Lions play in Baltimore, and he was the number 1 draft pick at left tackle. And T.J. Lang, who's the guy they got in the offseason, has missed a couple games because of injuries, as has Travis Swanson at center. And has the right tackle, Rick Wagner. But the reality of life is they're now back and they're healthy. And they've got to do a better job. The running backs have to do a better job. Scheme, Jim Bob Cooter's got to do a better job. This is a team that I think, though, Nestor, too, is they know their most important offensive weapon is the right arm of Matthew Stafford. And so they're a team that the pass game kind of sets up the run game. A little bit different because of Stafford's ability to throw the football. And that's what they've got to do. They've got to protect him, get their passing game going, back everybody out of there. Then their running game, can come around. They've run the ball at times effectively up, 80, 90 yards a game. That's all they need. They don't need to go 150, 180. And that's what they've got to do. And the passing game is key. But if you don't protect him, it's the old catch-22. If you don't protect him, your passing game doesn't work. Then they can load up the box, and then your running game doesn't work.
Well, we got a lot of purple going on over there, right? Not just Haloti Ngata, but you mentioned Rick Wagner sort of glossed over him. It was a big deal around here losing him in the offseason, especially how much money he was given. I've heard some choppy reports about how the entire O-line is played, but specifically when you're given that much money, you're expected to be shut down on that right side.
Well, right, and the other thing is he's been nicked up a little bit, and he's playing. God bless him, he's playing, even though he's a little nicked up here or there, But that's what the offensive linemen do. But it's probably limited his effectiveness. He's not 100%. Nobody is these days. But, it hurts him a little bit. And just getting Taylor Decker back, he's just getting his sea legs underneath him. This is only his third game back from shoulder injury. He was off all the season. So they haven't been 100% healthy. And that's been a problem. But, everybody's got the same problem out there. You got to find a way somehow to get it done.
Jim, a win here would sort of open the door, right? You go down to Tampa, you get some nice weather next week. Chicago at home, at Cincinnati, Green Bay at home. Maybe there's Aaron Rodgers comes out and does his Willis Reed or whatever. But in general, the schedule is favorable. We have the same situation on our end where we're going to see backup quarterbacks, Deshaun Kaiser, Jacoby Brissett. We got all that going on as well. But the sky is blue if there is maybe Honolulu blue if there's a victory this weekend on the Lions side, right?
Well, I agree with that, but the problem is that I'm been long enough in this league to know that you don't look down the road and expect you're going to win every game just because this guy and that guy. We went into Green Bay a few years ago. I'll never forget this. Last game of the year, and Rodgers was out and they played Matt Flynn, and we thought, oh God, we got a great shot to win. Flynn throws for like 500 yards, and he gets a contract in Seattle for $1 million, $10 million, whatever it is. It's like it never is as easy as you think it is going down the road. So, if you're the Lions, and if you're Baltimore for that matter, and I know John Harbaugh is probably doing this to his team, you got to play each game like it's the Super Bowl the rest of the way. If you're on the outside, both Baltimore and Detroit really are kind of on the outside looking in. They got shots, but the margin for error is paper thin. And if you've got that, you've got to make sure, and you got to take care of your own business. And in my opinion, the Lions, in order for them to ensure themselves a shot in the tournament, they got to win out, and that means they got to win 5 in a row. And it starts with 1, and that's Baltimore. And you don't look past that. That's the way I would coach it. And that's the way I think the Lions have to look at it.
He is Jim Brandstatter. He is Brandy Man Can out on Twitter. He is the voice of Michigan football as well as the Detroit Lions. The Lions coming here this weekend. And let's talk a little bit about the defense, Jim. And I hear so much about Darius Slay. I hear so much about Glover Quinn. I am interested in seeing how the secondary performs. But, look, this offense has been beyond putrid, from the beginning. And I think anytime we're out there kicking a field goal, we're feeling good about ourselves at this point. And I know Flacco has struggled through this. The whole offense has struggled, but they're going to want to try to pass the ball, and they're going to want to go up top. And I know you got some guys that, much like our secondary, wants to go up and get the ball.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, Darius Slay has become a shutdown corner. He's become very good. But the reality of life is it's a copycat league. And the Lions have not shown in the last 3 weeks that they can stop the run. And believe me, I know you're going to want to throw the ball, but I'll bet you right now Baltimore's looking about how they can run the football because the Lions have shown that they haven't been able to stop the run. So from that regard, if I were Baltimore, I would try to exploit that because if you run the ball, you're going to make the passing game that much better. So if defensively, I agree, and we got a wonderful rookie in Jared Davis in the middle. He's a middle linebacker, plays sideline to sideline. His vulnerability is in the pass a little bit. He's still not sure where to go, and that kind of gets him a little nervous. But, boy, if you run the ball, I think that Jared Davis, our linebacker, he can play. He's really good. But I don't know why. And Ziggy Ansah, he's our pass rush guy. He's been hurt. He's not been 100%. The Lions got Dwight Freeney, picked him up off of waivers from Seattle. He may see his first action against the Ravens. So that's one of those key things because he might give the Lions a bit of a pass rush off the edge that they're hoping to get. They haven't gotten a lot of it this year. And Freeney may be the guy that comes in and helps them do that and gives the defense a little shot in the arm to get better. You
mentioned Freeney. I've been calling him washed up for 5 years, but many have been calling Terrell Suggs washed up for 5 years. And look at what he did on Monday night. I mean, this sort of long-in-the-tooth pass rusher for guys like Freeney who can hang on and get a job. And, I would have no, surprise in seeing him standing over top of Joe Flacco at some point on Sunday. But what Suggs has done here has been otherworldly, Jim.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing. Guys that are older don't maybe necessarily do it week to week to week, but they have those flashes where, 4 or 5 weeks. And if you can get those 4 or 5 weeks out of them where they can dominate a series or dominate a half or create negative plays and get a strip sack and a fumble, if they can do that, they're worth their weight in gold and they're worth the salary. And they know how to do it. And they're good in the locker room. All of those things come with that guy, and he can help give the defense a little confidence when he's making plays like that. So I agree. I think Freeney can do it for the Lions. That's great. If he can make that impact play that can turn a game, then he's worth the money.
Just as an aside, you've been in that division forever and running around and trying to chase Brett Favre, trying to chase Aaron Rodgers, and the Vikings are doing the same thing. I mean, I look at the Vikings and the Lions, even to some degree the Bears, although they've been to the Super Bowl in the modern era, always chasing those Packers. And the Vikings, what Zimmer has done there on a third quarterback with that team, I mean, you have to stand and salute that, right? I mean, even though it's not the outcome you want on Thanksgiving, that's an impressive thing the Vikings have done there that I don't know any other organization can be working on the third quarterback and have a 3-game lead in their division at this point.
No, there's no question. I mean, I think, but he's done it smart. He's the other thing that's happened is his defense is outstanding, and that's where you start with that team. And here's the other thing: when I was doing our 2 deeps for that game, I went back and did the first game, which was like week 2 or 3 of the season, and now I'm in late November, and I look at the 2 deep, and there are no changes. He has not had one injury on that defensive team. The starting 11 has been the starting 11 all season long. That's very impressive. And that's the luck of the draw. When you don't get hurt at one side of the ball or the other, you just kind of look up at the heavens and say thank you, because that's normally not something that happens. But that's where it starts with them. And then Case Keenum has come out of nowhere. I mean, he's a guy that's a perpetual backup. But I'll tell you what, he threw some passes against us that were starter-type passes, where the window wasn't much. He also ran the ball. He did a nice job with the read option. And they use him beautifully. And I give them all the credit in the world. You're absolutely right, Nestor. In my opinion, if Zimmer goes on and the Vikings get to the playoffs, win the division, he, in my opinion, is a odds-on favorite, or at least one of the top 2 guys for Coach of the Year in the league.
And they might even get a home Super Bowl before the whole thing's over. We'll be out there in Minnesota for that. Jim Brandstatter joining us here. He is Brandy Man-Can, and in addition to the Lions, he does things with the Michigan Wolverines. And, I know from the Harbaugh family gene pool, and I ran into Jack Harbaugh late at night on Monday. He was in with Jackie outside the interview room as John came out after another victory here on Monday Night Football. I can't imagine I can imagine, because I'm a Maryland guy, right? I mean, we're working on our 4th quarterback by the time we saw you in November. Not too dissimilar from what Jim Harbaugh has experienced up there in Ann Arbor, in a lot of angst amongst the fan base, and it is impossible to win at that level with a third-string quarterback, even though Ohio State pulled it off a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, think about it. What other team has been through 3 quarterbacks and is 8-4 on the year? I don't think there's many out there. And
the Minnesota Vikings.
The Vikings. But, look at DJ Durkin, and poor guy at Maryland. He's down to this 4th quarterback. And, that's a decent football team when we saw them. But you need a play here and there from your quarterback. You need a good play. And you need a good pass. You need that one thing, that, like I said, so many times games come down to 4 and 5 plays. Now, you don't know when they're going to happen. But it could be in the first quarter. It could be a 3rd down conversion where you got to fit one into a tight window in order to keep a possession that turns out to be a score, and you win by 1 score. And so those are all the things that you need happen. And sometimes you don't get that. The guys are 3rd string and 4th string for a reason. And Jim Harbaugh's done a marvelous job, I think. And, the fans get a little restless. Michigan hasn't done a great job beating their rivals. And that's disappointing to everybody, including Jim Harbaugh. But there are reasons things happen, and quarterbacks going down and being injured, that's one of those things that happen. But I think Jim's done a marvelous job, and he's not going anywhere.
Well, it's interesting. First week, we had the same experience, right? Maryland went down to Texas and beat Texas, and we're like, wow. And Michigan beats Florida in a year where expectations are high, and you say, wow. The Michigan State loss on your side, and certainly the Central Florida loss on our side, is sort of a wake-up call for the whole season and how things sort of meandered away once the quarterbacks went down. But the Michigan State loss kind of stunned me, and I probably stunned everybody in Ann Arbor, right?
Oh, yeah, there's no question. It was played in a monsoon, but the problem was offensively we couldn't do anything, and we turned the ball over. And you can't do that. And Michigan State's a good team. I think Michigan, could have won the game, sure, but not turning the ball over like they did. And fumbles and interceptions, those kinds of things against good teams, ultimately turn out to be your undoing, and it did against Michigan State. Nothing against them. They played well, and they didn't turn the ball over. But from a standpoint of, what did they do? Michigan State in the second half, barely got a first down. And they got shut down. They scored 14 in the first half, and got nothing in the second half. It's just that Michigan's offense had lots of opportunities and couldn't make that one play, couldn't get over the hump. And that cost them against them. But that's history now. It's, spilt milk, water under the bridge. You can't go back and change it. It happened, and you got to live with it now for another 365 days.
Jim, I'll tell you what, we're looking forward to seeing you guys in here on Sunday as you come in with the Honolulu Blue. And I must say that about 3 people this week from Detroit have said, hey, are you coming out to the big house next year for the Maryland game? So I've already circled that, put it in my calendar. I have to wait for the NFL schedule, much like you, to see where the Purple guys are going to be that weekend. But I have never been to the big house. I have many Michigan alum friends. At some point, I'm going to get up there and bang on the door of Jimmy Harbaugh and say, let me in. How about that?
Well, you ought to get here. If you haven't been to Michigan Stadium, watch a football game, and you're a sports fan, life hasn't been complete. So make sure you get.
I watched the hockey game last year coming up off the steam there, and I was like, all right, at some point I'll get out there to Ann Arbor. Jim, always great to visit with you. Good luck. We'll see you on Sunday when you get in here, okay?
All right, Nestor. Be well.
You got it, Jim Brandstatter, Brandy Man Can, a Michigan icon, the voice of Michigan Wolverines football, as well as the Detroit Lions as they come into Baltimore this Sunday at 1 o'clock. You can find me out in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. You can listen from anywhere, no static at all. It's a wonderful thing. Our morning newspaper is also a wonderful thing. Ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. digitally each and every morning, via our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. $10 a month, never any commitment. You know how they roll at Planet Fitness. There's one right in your neighborhood. It'll help you work off all the eggnog and the pumpkin pie I've been drinking and eating around here as well. Last but never least, our breaking news service is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. First, fast, quick, accurate, never any spam. It's the way we roll. And don't forget, Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home with the SSV on WNST. I am Nasty at WNST.net. Praise, criticism. I prefer praise. I accept criticism. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.